Ready, Drew? Bonnie, this is Commissioner Bullock. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, welcome to Planning Commission for the, for the June 4th, 2025 meeting. We will start with a prayer from Commissioner Anderson and the pledge from Commissioner Davis.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful that we can gather here as Washington City residents. We're grateful for the opportunity to participate in local government. Please help us that we can have clear minds and that we can approach the issues here at hand with wisdom and forethought. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
All right, item number 1 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Look for a motion for the approval.
Commissioner Davis, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda for Planning Commission.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the May 7th, 2025 meeting.
Commissioner Anderson, I approve the minutes from May 7th.
Commissioner Davis seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, declaration of abstentions or in conflicts. Does anyone have any tonight?
No.
All right. Item 4A is Z-25-14, a request to rezone approximately 4.51 acres located at 1902 East Washington Dam Road from the current RA5 zoning to the proposed I-1 zoning designation. The applicant is Russ Robinson and Lila Jessup. And we will turn the time over to Eldon.
Thank you, Commissioners. The requested change is from the current zoning of RA5 to a proposed light industrial, which is the I-1 zoning designation. The I-1 request is to use the land in accordance with the I-1 use list as identified in 9-11-1D, which purpose is to provide appropriate spaces for uses such as storage yards, warehouse, light manufacturing, fabrication of goods, wholesaling, and other similar establishments without creating smoke gas odors to the surrounding areas. This particular location has a general plan land use of industrial. Industrial supports the I-1 and I-2 zoning designations. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is RA1 to the north and east, PUD to the south, and I-1 to the west. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-25-14 for zone change request from RA5 to the proposed I-1, and this is on to City Council based on the following findings. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
The only access is going to be right there off of 1900 East, right?
Correct. Yeah, that flag access there.
Because they can't come in off those other 2 lots right there. How wide is that road? Because when I drove it and looked at it, it doesn't look wide enough to be a city street.
Yeah, it's a private access drive. I don't have that exact dimension. I could get a rough number for you here.
Okay, but if we change that into light manufacturing, we're going to have big trucks rolling through there for deliveries, stuff like that, coming out onto that access. How is that going to work out for them if we change to that sort of zoning? Because everything else over here we've been changing to industrial or to commercial. I mean, not commercial, residential, it seems like. So I'm not sure why we're gonna stick this one behind all the other residential spots. It doesn't look like it fits. Plus, there's already a house on there.
Yeah, there is a residential home there. You know, if they wanted to subdivide this, if the zone change were to be approved and subdivide, they would be required to meet those requirements and gain more public access to meet those minimum requirements. It's something we'd have to work through when we get there.
Do you guys have any questions for Eldon?
Well, Eldon, again, that's a private residence right there, right next to it, right? And notice, but no comment from, pardon? Oh, it's there, oh, it's theirs, it's the applicant's.
Yeah.
Oh,
There is a residence directly to the north too.
right down there, right.
You have any more questions for Eldon?
All the adjacent property.
This is Commissioner Anderson. Maybe this is a question for John. I don't know. Is there any other access that they could get to this from the industrial area? I mean, my big hang up on this same thing is that, you know, you got this house here, and let's say they sell the house, even if they subdivide or whatever, but then you've got big trucks going back and forth right in front of this house. You know, I mean, I understand the applicant lives there now, but they may not always live there, and that's a huge problem. So I guess you or John, either one, is there any other access to get to that without having to come down in front of the house?
Yeah, if you look at Dennett Industrial, the plat for that, there's no public access that it would extend over to that lot. So right now, their access would be off that flag coming off of 1900 East up there. The ground to the south, that's BLM's ground, so.
Could they get access? And that's my question. I mean, I understand there's not any now, but could access be made or no?
They would have to deal with those property owners and either get some type of access easement or something. So, but that's, considering the fact that they've got most of that developed, I doubt any of them would be, willing to provide access easement. I just measured that flag, it looks like it's about 28 feet. So that meets our minimum fire requirement and stuff for that flag lot. As long as it's a single lot back there, that would work for the access and stuff. I mean, obviously, they've got a few design challenges and stuff in the future coming out onto the driveway, but we'd deal with that at construction stuff. If, like Eldon said, if they were going to subdivide that back there, then they would have to worry about providing the public access, which would then have to meet our standard requirements for road width and stuff.
Thanks, Sean. This is a public hearing on this. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to item 4A. Now's your chance. Yeah.
Hi, this is Lila. In review of when we were looking at this
Hold on a
property-
second, Lila. We'll ask you a question in just a minute.
Okay.
All right, I will close the public hearing portion of this. Okay. So, all right, Lila, this is the applicant online, right?
Yes.
Okay, what were you saying?
When we first pulled this property in review of the property, the highest and best use correlates more with light industrial. And like the last gentleman stated, as long as it's not subdivided, the highest and best use can be used without expanding that road. I do recommend at some point, whoever does choose to redevelop this into light industrial, they maybe work with the neighbor to get that bigger expansion just to meet fire department's turn radius. However, that house is in the consideration of the light industrial. It is the owner that lives there. And his intention is to move. It is not to maintain that house.
So he is not going to, I mean, I saw that the sign's for sale, so they're wanting to sell everything but sell it as a commercial property.
Yes.
Lila, this is Commissioner Anderson. So if they're going to sell, I mean, are they intending to sell the house and the property zoned as industrial?
Yes, that is the intention.
Do you have any questions for Lila? All right, thanks, Lila.
Yep, no problem.
What is it you guys are saying? What are you guys thinking on this? Because we all have to agree because there's only 3 of us here.
Have to agree, but if you don't all agree, any motion would fail.
And if the motion fails, then what?
Then somebody has to,
Does it table till the next meeting, or does it
No,
move
then-
on to council?
automatically table. If a motion fails, then another motion could be presented that might succeed based on your statements, or you could just make a motion to table a subsequent meeting.
Okay. My problem with it is, it is by the industrial area, but there's also everything that we've been doing so far has been switching out what I thought should have stayed or been industrial to residential. And then you got 1900 East right there. You're accessing it on a turn. It's not a good access. It's a flag lot for one lot, but I mean, if it's one lot, you can still bring in, on 5 acres, you can bring in a good manufacturing plant right there and have a lot of stuff coming out of it. I'm surprised we didn't hear from the neighbors in front.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I think the fact that they want to sell it with the house and rezone as industrial I think that makes it worse. I mean, kicks the problem down to whoever buys the house, I mean, ultimately, it's a problem area unless the house is getting torn down. I mean, if the house is getting torn down, I could say, okay, I could see making it industrial. But with the house staying there and with the flag lot access, I mean, it's right on the line between where industrial's kind of stopping and residential is starting. And I mean, if you're gonna leave the house there, if you're talking highest and best use of the property, I would probably be to make it subdivide it and put 2 more houses on it or something, or 1 more house or whatever. But if you want to make it industrial, I mean, the house is the problem.
Well, I say they do tear the house down. I mean, that's, they have every right to buy it and tear the house down.
Sure.
That to me makes the only sense of buying the property is to tear the house down and put more industrial shops right there.
If the house turned down, I wouldn't have heartburn. It's just,
See, and the only reason I would have heartburn is because of the neighbor right there they're driving basically through his side yard and backyard you're gonna have big trucks running down the front of your house and the side of your house where he's been there for so long.
And I'm in the same place because I start off with concerns over the access. And it comes down to, you're betting on the come. It's a what if. Now, we want to sell it as industrial, but you have a residential. You got a home there. And I struggle with, how this affects the current resident as well.
Well, the current resident's the one selling it.
Well, I'm sorry, the neighbor,
Oh, okay.
Applicant's asking to speak again,
Yeah.
Chairman. Lila, are you there and able to speak?
Oh, yes. So Russ has spoken to the current neighbor, whichever that is. And they are just fine with it going to light industrial. That's why you haven't heard from them, is they are okay with it going that direction.
And the intent is for industrial development, not keeping the house.
Is that not correct, Russ? You gotta turn the mic on. Gotta turn your mic on, Russ. Can't hear you. We can't hear you, Russ. Anyway, sorry, gentlemen. Russ did speak with all of the neighbors adjacent to this property, and none of them objected to it going light industrial. Not sure what's wrong with Russ's thing.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I've talked to Doyle and Colleen and Sean and Jackie Barnson, and everybody's been fine with it going that way.
I can't make the motion, so.
Reminder that on this item, your decision tonight is just a recommendation, so the ultimate deciders will get to wrestle with it again.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, you heard me.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'm going to make a motion to recommend denial of Z-25-14 based on the fact that there's a residential home right in the middle of the property, including it's a private access driveway to that home that you'd have to access all of the industrial property.
Davis seconds the motion.
All right, I have a first from Commissioner Anderson, a second from Commissioner Davis, individual voting. Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Bullock. My hangup with this is the fact that it's there's got to be a boundary somewhere. I feel like it's a spot zoning in the middle. And that's my only problem with it, is it is a spot zoning coming through a neighborhood, not a neighborhood, but the side lot. Even though the property owner to the north says he's fine with it, that property gets sold fast, and then so with that being said, I am an aye on that, on the denial as well. So this will go to City Council with a recommendation for denial next week. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 4B, Z-25-15, a request to rezone approximately 0.76 acres located at 181 East, 200 North from the current R16 zoning to the proposed AP zoning designation. The applicant is Washington City. We'll turn the time over to Eldon. Ooh, you guys are gonna have a hard time getting this one through.
Maybe before Eldon reads the staff report, when the city bought this house, which is known as the Covington Mansion, over 10 years ago, the city council had considered, making it available for something like, receptions or something of that nature. And there was concern expressed from the local neighbors. Essentially, The concern was, we like that you own the house, we like that you've preserved it, we like that you keep the yard up. But if you're gonna turn it into an event center, you're just pushing all of those cars into our driveways and into our neighborhood. And so for some time, the city has not sought to change its zoning. In the last few months, the city has completed, during those 10 years and since, the city acquired a lot to the north, directly adjacent to the north, and has now installed in there a parking lot, a bathroom facility, and other amenities, so that those that were to choose to use it, if the city council eventually goes there, they haven't made that decision yet, but there would be on-site parking available for this. And the city's application tonight is essentially to move it into a zone that might allow the city council to decide whether that it would be available for rentals for receptions or things like that.
Thanks, Thad.
So this property is known as the Covington House there. And it's going to be used as a gathering place for the community to enjoy. It does include that parking lot to the north of the address of 181 East, 200 North. And the request is to change from the current R16 to a proposed AP zoning designation. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is R16 to the north, east, south, and west. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-25-15 for zone change request from the R16 to the proposed AP, and this one is also onto the City Council based on the findings stated in staff report. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
I don't have any questions. That kind of answered them all for me. All right, this is a public hearing on item 4B. If anyone here would like to speak to item 4B, please do so. Okay, I'll close the public hearing portion of item 4B. And commissioners, do you have any other questions or concerns with this or a motion? Yeah, I like it.
I'll make a motion that Planning Commission approve and pass along to City Council item Z-25-15 for the 0.76 acres located at 101 18-1 East, 200 North, for the zoning change from R-1-6 to AP zoning.
So I second.
I have a first from Commissioner Davis and a second from Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bullock. I am an aye as well, and this will go to City Council next week with a recommendation for approval. Item 4C, Z-25-12, a request to rezone approximately 13.69 acres located at Heritage Fields Drive and 1410 South from the current RA20 zoning to a proposed RA5, RA1, and OS zoning designation. Applicant Susan Debenham. Thank you. Sorry. I'll turn the time over to Eldon.
The purpose for this zone change is to develop 5.11 acres of RA1 into a residential development, change 1.68 acres to open space. That's in the Wash area. And maintain 6.91 acres of agricultural use on the east side there. The proposed open space follows the existing erosion control wall, and the remaining portion of this wall will be built out with development. The applicant has met with city staff. We have discussed a master plan trail that's shown in this area, along with the flood hazard concerns running there by the wash. which will be addressed during the pre-plat application. This particular location has a general plan land use designation of low density and open space. Low density supports a 3 to 4 density unit per acre ratio, and the surrounding zoning to this parcel is PUD to the north, A20 to the east and west, and R110 to the south. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-25-12 for the zone change request from A20 to the proposed A5, RA1, and open space zoning designations as shown on the exhibit. And this also is on to City Council based on the findings stated in the staff report. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think, Corey, you good? Thanks, Eldon. All right, item 4C. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to item 4C, now is your chance. All right, the public hearing portion for 4C is now closed. And either you guys can open up for more discussion or look for motion.
I'd like to talk with the applicant for just a minute
Okay.
if Mrs. Debenham wants to come up. How are you? Good. These comments aren't as much directed at your application as they are that the city council has been trying to acquire land in the river so that the city could have the right to access and maintain that waterway. I know nothing about what your plans are for the open space.
Okay.
But if a donation of that piece to the city council was something that your plans could contemplate, you might find that might be something that helps you as you talk with the city
Okay,
council.
we will consider that. Our plans are, I grew up here, love Washington, and look forward to having a home there next to the river. So it's something I'd have to really think about. That was our backyard, and my son wants to build a home next to us, so just 2 homes right there by the river. So that's it.
Great.
Yeah. We like to have some green space to be able to have an Easter egg hunt, you know? No, have animals actually, so. Does that help? Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah. Whatever.
Anderson. Motion to recommend approval of Z-25-12, request to rezone approximately 13.69 acres located at Heritage Fields Drive and 1410 South from the current Ag 20 zone to the proposed Ag 5, RA1, and open space zoning designations with the findings outlined by staff.
Commissioner Davis, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Davis, individual voting. Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock? I am an aye as well. And item 5 is adjournment for Planning Commission.
Commissioner Davis makes motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll give it just a minute to switch over for the land use. Just 5 minutes? Okay, we'll be back in 5. Welcome to the Land Use Authority regular meeting for June 4th, 2025. We'll start this off with the approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Davis makes a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes from May 7th, 2025.
Commissioner Anderson, I approve the minutes from May 7th.
Seconds.
All right, I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Item number 3 is declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Does anyone have any with this?
None.
All right. Item 4A is a preliminary plat approval for the Country Hills subdivision located at 2140 East Washington Dam Road. The applicant is Jared Bates. I'll turn the time over to Eldon.
This particular subdivision is proposing 18 lots on an area covering 9.22 acres. The zoning designation at this location is R115. The surrounding zoning is RA1 to the north and west, R130 to the east, and PUD to the south. This subdivision is providing a secondary 26-foot wide all-weather access behind lots 1 through 4, with Country Hills Court being stubbed to the east for future connectivity. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends that the Land Use Authority approve the preliminary plat for the Country Hills subdivision based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions as stated in the report. On that plan, on the far south end there, you can see there's a single family residence. And this plan is proposing to maintain access to that parcel. I want to make that publicly known. They're going to provide that hammerhead with a public access easement to the location that they're currently driving up to their parcel. And that concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any further questions you may have at this time.
Drew, can you pull that up on the satellite view? It's right there, right?
They're currently accessing that south piece all the way on the western side. So the location of it is changing there, but still maintaining access to the parcel.
Where's the existing house, you said? Okay, and that's not in this.
Correct. It's not included in the subdivision. However, they are required to maintain access to the piece.
Right.
Is served by a 20-foot easement of record that you'll see there on the far west boundary of the lot. But the land, the subservient land over which the easement runs, is the land that is in the proposal to the city in the application tonight. So the issue that gets raised is, does this applicant take care of, if they're going to remove the existing legal access, are they going to reestablish it somewhere else? And what Eldon was saying is that this plan shows a 50-foot wide public road that gets mostly there, and then there's a small section of common area that gets the rest of the way to the current driveway location.
So they'll just lose that west access and they'll use the Main Street one?
Correct. That's the proposal that the applicant has made. The occupants of the home have met with myself and Eldon, and I wouldn't describe them as happy with this option. there are some challenges. The current easement is written as a 20-foot wide egress easement, but it is not written with a location. So in theory, it could be anywhere across that subservient estate, not on that boundary. The other thing is it's written to benefit the grantor. The grantor is a trust. And so it's not super clear that it would be something that would pass beyond the grantor. As the city attorney looks at this, in light of Utah law does allow the subservient estate to relocate an easement as long as the easement isn't more difficult or longer than the current one that they've enjoyed. And so I look at this and say they're taking a 20-foot wide dirt driveway and the applicant's proposing to replace it with a fully built 50-foot wide public right-of-way. And I would conclude that the proposal is improving and both the width and the size and the surface of the right-of-way.
And that 20-foot access to the west will be there until that is paved and they can get into there.
That's probably a comment that one of you should make if you choose to make a motion to approve, is that, you know, they would make sure to establish the public right-of-way access before they could terminate the private access.
So like no homes can be built until on the west side until there's that.
Yeah, or they just, the first thing they need to build is the road, the public road. Because that road is the legal access to every lot in the proposed application, they're gonna need to put that thing in sooner than later anyway, right?
Right, well, I just wouldn't know if they were, we've seen them do 4 lots and then not do the rest.
Yeah, the phasing of what actually happens is always a bit of a.
Commissioners, if I may add and add to that, one of the forces driving that is this layout on Washington Dam Road. We're trying to get away from these zigzagged offset patterns. Now that we've expanded Washington Dam Road to what it is, we've inherited a lot of these, and as many as that we can eliminate and get them more lined up with cross intersections, the better it'll be for everybody in safety. And so that's the other thing, is right on this property line is directly across the street from this subdivision's main entrance and exit. And that puts that more in line. If we kept it over here, you could see it would just cause one more hiccup down the road, especially when you have left-hand turn lanes and all that you throw in and get involved. This is a safer, means to do that as well. So just for your information on that.
Thank you, Eldon. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to item 4A. Please state your name.
My name is Patricia Biggs. I am the
Can
current
you pull the mic down so that
sorry.
we can get it on record? Thank you.
Sorry. My name is Patricia Biggs, and I am the current resident in the existing house there. When they first came to me with this, when I got the notice on it, I wasn't really happy with it. I've had that drive established for 28 years, and I don't know, I just didn't see a productive way to get to my house from the center part, because they would have to cut in front of my parcel with the drive over to my driveway to get to my house, or extend it to the end of the parcel and then cut across my property that way. I don't know. It looks like they're gonna just do it at my property line from them and me. But there's a problem with that creates quite a burden for me, is because They've done excavating, which has created quite a drop-off from my property line to theirs. And it would be hazardous, really, to leave that without a retaining wall. Because if we had heavy rain or whatever, the water, or the land would slough off and undercut the big building over time. And also, I assume that they're going to be moving the water connections. I don't know. And I would make maybe a couple of requests, if I could, that a retaining wall be built to maintain the height of my property so it doesn't slough off, which would create problems for their parcel as well over time. And also, if they would be willing to connect me to sewer, that would be really beneficial for me. It just, financially, it creates a big problem for me, all the changes that they're making. And I don't have the money to pay for those changes, so. And currently, I'm on a septic tank. And I know that would want to be phased out because of, the buildings that's going in. They don't want a septic tank on that. But if they would be willing to connect me with sewer, that would be wonderful. And like I said, do retaining walls where necessary, where the excavating has put me a lot higher than them. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hold on. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this?
My name is Kelsey Tolanen. I'm her granddaughter. Just to add a couple of things, to clarify, our water line runs on the west side of that 4-acre parcel currently. We do also maintain a fire hydrant. So both of those things would have to be either switched to that road, which we also do not have the financial capability to do that if they do not provide that. Additionally, within the deeded easement that we do have, it's a 20-foot all-weather access, so we would like to request that it is paved to our driveway, as that's what's within our deeded access. And that's the remaining that she wanted to add.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak to this item? All right, we will close the public hearing portion of this.
Commissioner, if I may.
Yeah, I have questions, so I'll let
It
you
might
go.
benefit the commission to see the document that created the easement. So if I can airplay. I think we're waiting for IT. There we go. So this is on the county recorder's website, and this is the deed where the trust called the Biggs Family Trust. I'll try and make this fit better on the screen here. The trust called the Biggs Family Trust, which is Ms. Biggs, who stood up, and her husband, who I understand has passed away. At the time, they owned both parcels, and so they deeded. And then they sold the lower 4-acre parcel, I should say the northerly, but the larger 4-acre parcel to an entity. And you'll see in here the language right at this location. The grantor would have been the trust, hereby reserves a 20-foot wide access easement for ingress and egress to the grantor's remaining property to the south, which is, I believe, referencing the property with the house on it. As I met with the Ms. Biggs, I explained to her that there's some weakness in this easement, in that it doesn't, typically easements contain a legal description that says, the easement sits at this legal description. This one doesn't have any indication as to where across the 4 acres it would cross. It doesn't mention also things like utilities Now, we've been told that the utilities do run in that roadway, but this doesn't necessarily make it clear that the legal right to do that is there. The other thing that it doesn't mention is whether it can include access by, let's say, visitors or other family member, or if it could be passed on to another owner. And so that's one of the reasons why I, as the city attorney, concluded that this 50-foot public right-of-way was an improvement on what they currently have. And so that's, I just wanted to show you more fully why I reached that conclusion as a matter of my legal opinion.
Where are the utilities? Do they run in that 20-foot easement? Can you tell us where the water line is and all that?
Let me switch over to so right now there's an existing water main, 6-inch main that comes down on that west side in that 20-foot, what would be about that 20-foot easement. It runs all the way down, serves them with their culinary water, has a fire hydrant on the end of it for fire protection. In the plans that you're seeing up there for the preliminary plat stuff, that will stay in place, and then we're connecting it through that access easement at the end, looping it back up the new road and stuff. So it would be a complete loop system instead of them being on a single
dead
line
end.
feed. Yeah. And so we've asked, when we went through our process, where approximately they would believe that 20-foot easement was at. We're keeping a 15-foot PUE to maintain that water main and stuff in the future.
So they're not abandoning it. It's still going to stay there. There's no reason to move anything. They'll just turn it, run it back through.
Yep, we'll just loop it back up the new main road.
This is Commissioner Anderson, John. So, question though, with that water line, I mean, I see we've got a public utility easement there, but it's also in everyone's backyard, right? The proposed
Yep.
new lots. Which makes it interesting for those people to have an existing water line right in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yep. It's a fun area to try and fit all these different developments in and get our systems looped and stuff to serve everything. So work with everything that we have out there and try to make them work. So it'll be a bit different, but again, it wouldn't be the first time that there's utilities in the rear of a property and protected with a public utility easement, so.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I have another question. So why the secondary access between lots 1 and 4? Was it too long to do a roundabout for fire access, or why the hammerhead instead of a roundabout at the end?
You'd have to ask the developer. They didn't want to go with the additional loss of ground with putting a cul-de-sac at the end down there. So they went with the option that they can do a hammerhead.
Is the applicant here?
Yeah.
Yep. Jared's here to represent him, so. Any other questions for me before?
Jared Bates, yeah, so you wanted to ask about the hammerhead versus the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, just curious why. I mean,
Yeah.
I know the cul-de-sac takes a little more room than the hammerhead, but so does taking all that land behind lots 1 through 4.
Yeah, no, the reason why we did the hammerhead on the end there is because the access to the property that's staying out of the subdivision is actually on the very west end. And so to be able to get from that driveway as is to the cul-de-sac would be more difficult than just running the hammerhead. That was the main reason, and then that way they could have a straight shot. Otherwise, we'd have a cul-de-sac offset somewhere and then some sort of weird.
So it's to provide
It's the easiest way to
the
provide
bigs
access to them.
with easier access to her driveway.
Right, and part of the design too, we wanted to keep the access at the same elevation, same location where it's at now, just to kind of make sure there wasn't any additional burden or cost for that.
So I guess maybe it's on here, but how wide is, sure it's there, but I can read it.
25 feet to 24 feet.
After 24.87.
Yeah.
So is that section going to be paved along with the road?
It's shown now as all-weather access, which is an improvement on what's there now, you know, similar to, or, you know, it's not paved now, so. I don't know if. Roadways, yeah.
And so I guess another question would be, where would you be bringing in sewer for lot 11? I would assume it's pretty close to their lot. Like if they wanted to tie into the sewer, I'm sure it's pretty close.
It's right there, so it's a lot 11, if you look straight,
Okay,
it
I
goes
see,
straight
yeah.
out there. I mean, you'd have
And
to,
you've got your sewer right there. So for them to get sewer access,
you know, if they wanted
maybe
sewer.
20 feet to get onto their property and,
Yeah, what you'd do is you'd basically come along that all-weather access and do a couple clean outs that you'd end up doing. It'll be, so the sewer's gonna be like 8 feet deep there in the road. Yeah, so you're plenty good there. And then that lot and then the lot that's part of the subdivision to the east is way up in the air. It's pretty high. You can't tell on the paper, but you can see we're 84 to 68, so there's a big elevation change there, so.
so another question, the Mrs. Biggs, she had said, she kept referring to saying they've dug out below my law and created an erosion hazard. Is she referring to your client that did that?
No, it's the people who had owned the property before.
Okay, but it's still with this property, right?
Correct, yeah. So basically, the people who owned the property before, they used it as like a yard for construction.
So can you show me, like, Sean, this, where is that elevation change that she's talking about, that she's concerned about?
If you go, it's just, right there where Drew's got it. See where there's actually on the side there as well as on the north side of where that building is at. It's kind of there now. And that's just how it is now, like we, you know, as bought.
So when you finish the lots, though, will you be above her or below her, or?
We'll be below her as it
Below
is
her,
now.
how many feet?
You're about, I want to say about 8 or so in that spot.
On both sides of the
Well, so
above and the
on,
side? North
remind
and
me,
east?
I think we'll be pretty close, sorry, the pad that's there will be pretty close. Sorry, it's kind of confusing. So I've got 2 walls there on 10. So so from 84 to 68, you've got that 16 feet there. And I think you're closer to 8 or so on her. So can you scroll maybe down a little bit? There should be a contour label here. So that's at 76. That should be, that dark light's 80. So they're pretty similar elevations. So you're gonna be a similar scenario there too. So if we have to put in a wall to accommodate the access, we'll do that. I mean, we have to make it work. Yeah, we'll have to have one that's there. And then that road will come up. The all-weather access will just come up to the elevation that it's at now. So the elevation is greatest where it is now, closer to the center of the road, and as you go to the east, it goes, I'm sorry, the west, it goes less.
So just so I'm clear, what you're saying is your intention is to mitigate those concerns.
We have to, otherwise these guys will pass us off either way, so yeah.
I mean, he's not going to say, okay.
Sorry, these guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, just so you're aware, we spent a lot of time with both Eldon and John trying to figure out how to make this work, because, you know, we've tried to accommodate, you know, we haven't talked about the access to the east to that future road that may or may not happen. We've done that, and, you know, like we're building a whole road there to try to accommodate future access there too, so. Developers have been really gracious to try to help try to make this work, so.
So, just so I'm clear then. So on the lot to the, just trying to see which direction this is. On the lot to the east, then lot 10, so that driveway, it's coming from lower up to
Yeah.
higher, correct?
Yeah, 10 is higher than,
So you have to put in that retaining wall anyways between
either way,
there.
that's right, it's gotta work.
So then, I guess my question then is, are you planning to put in retaining wall between the Biggs and lot 11, and I guess the access there?
Yeah, basically the access tie will.
Because it's got to go up as well.
It's gotta go up
right?
too, so it'll tie in, so yeah, as per, you know, the rules, we can't do any grading or any
Sure.
improvements to her property to make our property work. So we're tying into her grades there. And you can kind of see it's not a flat pad there either, right?
Right.
It's all over the place.
So that'll take care of the retaining issues that
Yeah.
she was speaking of.
Yeah, so those things will be accommodated, and then again, if they wanted to tie into, put in another water meter, there's options to add utilities if they wanted to, because of where the utilities are being brought to for lot 10, they could tie in sewer and water really close. They want to do something like that. If they wanted a new meter or something, it's right there, and sewer is right there.
Yeah, because the water's gonna be looped anyways, it's just
Yeah.
the sewer, what she's talking about, they'd have to tie into the line there.
Yeah, they'd tie in, just right next to that water line in that access, so they would do so.
But, I mean, right now they're on the septic and things are fine.
Yeah, we weren't intending on making any changes, unless they wanted to work with the developer or something.
I think it would be a good idea. I mean, I don't necessarily think that you guys need to pay to hook them up to sewer, but I also think it'd be a good idea to just
Have a
take the
stub or
end of your
something.
sewer line, I mean, you gotta build a retaining wall there anyways, rather than just stopping and saying, well, they can do it if and when they get money to. You can
Stub
extend
it.
a lateral off, 20
Yeah.
feet before you put your wall in and just have it stubbing at the corner of their property. That way there is a sewer lateral there. And then if and when they want to connect to sewer, it's there on their property and they can.
Yeah, I mean,
tie it.
what I'd probably run a stub and just run to the west along that access, and then wherever
Sure.
makes sense.
Just,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just so they have a stub on their property, so if they want to hook in, they can tie
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I think, we can definitely make sense.
I just think that's better than saying, well, we've got it right here in the street, and when you
Yeah.
come up with the money, you can eventually tie in, because
Sure.
then let's say they eventually do it, and then you got pavement and everything else, and it's a
Yeah, no,
mess.
I think that makes sense. I mean, we haven't really talked about it. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, that works.
The reality is the city and the county would not allow a new septic tank there today, right? And so
Right.
it is the policy of the Washington City and the regional sewer system to encourage, historic septic tank approvals to connect to sewage to the sewer system when they can. The city can't extract that on a neighboring property when the application's for the next door piece, right? But it's certainly something I think the city would like to see happen.
And if they can step a line for them, that'll help them. I mean, she says she can't afford to tie in right now, but somebody one day may be able to afford it. So at least it'll be cheaper for them because it's already stubbed.
Yeah, and that's not a major expense.
Right, once it's stubbed there, it's fairly minimal to tie in at that point,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and the retaining will be there, so that issue will be taken care of, and then the sewer will be stubbed, so that when it comes time, she can, yeah.
Are there any privacy walls, like block privacy walls around the community or no? Or is it just the retaining walls that are shown?
There'll be privacy walls probably on top of the retaining walls that we'll have. And then in areas where we can't have them, we'll have to come up with something creative for screening, so.
Okay. What's the material for the retaining? Is it boulders or?
It'll
Block or-
probably be just rock, because they're not, there's space to do it. Usually we'll do concrete if it's a really tight lot, but if there's space, we'll probably just do rock.
Okay, thanks.
I do have one quick question. It says it's common area. Right there. Right between 11 and,
The little driveway connection to the public road is labeled as common area.
but should that be, is that a deeded, will that be the new deeded access?
So that.
Should it be common area or should it be,
So this has other common area in their retention pond down near Dam Road, and so they're going to need an association and some form of CCNRs to get legal approval for their plat. I don't have an objection to it being common area. I would, if I were reviewing this for final plat approval, I would want to verify that there's CCNRs in place, that indicate how that will be used. In other words, indicate that that the common area there is used for the benefit of access to the Biggs parcel. And so as a matter of legal, I don't have a problem conceptually with it, but at the time of plat review, I would need to see documents and verify that those things are established in the documents.
But this, I mean, I want to make sure there's something so that
Yeah.
so that an HOA can't come in and say, no, this is ours, and you guys can't get to it.
Correct.
Commissioner Anderson, I guess maybe this is a question for the applicant again, but where that's common area, that the only use of that common area is for them to have access to their house, wouldn't it be simpler to deed that to them rather than putting it as common area? Because if it's common area, then technically the HOA has to maintain it. And so what if, they complain to the HOA that, hey, we don't like the surface, we don't like this, we don't like that?
They're not part of the HOA.
No, I know they're not. That's my point, is they don't really have any recourse, but their driveway would be controlled by the HOA.
I guess I kind of look at it as the opposite. I think if the HOA controls that piece, then they will maintain it. If based on what's out there now, I'd be concerned about leaving it up to the property owner to maintain it.
My other concern is that, if we're going off of what Thad said about, having to improve the easement, I understand, a wider with a better surface and so forth, is an improvement. However, the common access here is not an improvement. It's, the same as what it is currently, except it changes their whole alignment for their garage and everything else. And I would argue that that's, worse. They have to go sideways across their building and then into another community now. So, I think if we're going to argue that we're improving it, that it should at least be paved like the rest of it. Plus, if it's not paved, you're going to have, again, the HOA, they might be complaining about, dirt tracks and whatever going through the neighborhood, but it's not their property technically, so.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't want to speak out of turn. I think having to pave it, I don't think that's a deal breaker for these guys.
I just think if it's paved, then you can actually make the argument, hey, it may not be wider here, but at least it's an improved surface.
They would, I guess we'd probably argue that we don't have to pave the whole 25 feet.
Sure.
Right, maybe they pave, a 12, because typically a driveway is 12 feet, right? So maybe part of it's paved and part of it's left is gravel, which would be a compromise, I think.
Although, again, their current driveway is 20 feet, and the whole idea is we have to improve upon that. So, if we shrink it, even though it's paved, we've shrunk it again. So, we're already changing directions. If we shrink it, change directions, I would argue that you pave that, and then you can make the argument that, yeah, we've improved this driveway.
I think we can probably work with that.
Okay. That's all I had. Thanks, Sheriff. This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat, Country Hills subdivision located at approximately 2140 East Washington Dam Road, with the findings and conditions outlined by staff, and add condition 14 that the retaining walls to the north and east of the property are built, and that the proposed access area to the Biggs property is paved at its full width. Sewer stub is brought to the Biggs property at some point on their property, and that the road is built before any homes are constructed in there, so that the private easement is replaced with the public easement. So I don't know, Bonnie, that's more than one condition. Maybe that's 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know. 4 conditions. Did you get all that?
Commissioner Davis, I second that. Hopefully we got it all.
Bonnie, did you get those 4 conditions?
Yes, I did get them.
Thank you.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting. Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
I am Commissioner Bullock. I'm an aye as well. And then that is approved with the conditions. Item 4B is a preliminary plat approval for the breakwater at Alea subdivision located approximately Groves Park and Breakwater Lane. The application is Skyhawk Land Corporation. We'll send this over to Eldon.
This particular subdivision is proposing 22 lots on an area covering 5.26 acres. The zoning designation at this location is PCD. The surrounding zoning is PCD to the north, east, south, and west. The proposed subdivision is located in Village 4 of the Alea PCD and conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends the Land Use Authority approve the preliminary plat for the breakwater at Alea subdivision based on the following findings and conditions as stated in the staff report. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions on it. They're small lots, but
Which section is this again? Under numbered sections?
4.
Number 4, Village 4. It does have the nightly rental overlay. You can see there it's hashed out.
And Eldon, just so I'm keeping everybody straight, this Skyhawk Land Corporation vis-a-vis Stuckey Farms, is this a spin-off piece or what do we have there?
This is the new owners that purchased the Stuckey Farms development.
But that's, okay, so that's the parent.
It is the Stuckey Farm that just changed.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, well then
It's
I'm
the,
looking ahead to the next piece as well. And I was
yeah, it's the
making sure I had the players straight.
Gotcha.
same land that comprised the Skyhawk proposal. Skyhawk essentially went all the way under and then was rezoned with the Stuckey Farms PCD. This applicant acquired development rights from the Stuckey Farms PCD owner developer and are now pursuing those development rights on the remaining portions of the Stuckey Farms PCD.
This portion.
Wait, I'm confused. Sorry.
What did I say to
Well,
confuse you?
Skyhawk went under. How come they're the applicant? Okay. Well, that's confusing.
Red Hawk. Red Hawk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
That's
that doesn't
right,
help,
confusion.
but okay, thank you. I was like, something's not right here. How's that? Okay, that makes more sense. Now.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any? Oh, this is a public hearing. If anyone here would like to speak to this item 4B.
Gary Smith, resident of Alea. Recommend approval of the plat only if the currently approved zoning, setbacks, established easements, codes, right-of-ways, accepted traffic engineering, SWIP plans, and protection zones are complied with as they are currently approved without plans for changes of those zones and variance requests. Also, to comply with the currently established standards by the members of the Stuckey Farms membership for the members of the residents, et cetera. Okay.
Hi, I'm Maureen Martindale. I live in the Crossroads area. I've been here before. I've lived there 5 years, and that Crossroads has been there 7 years. We still have not had any improvements on Washington Fields or in the retaining area. And I went for a walk yesterday, took pictures. The erosion is horrible. The mud is on the street. And so before any improvements are made, is there any way we can get that road done on Washington Fields? The sidewalks are buckling, the erosion from the back of the houses, it all ends up on the road. The city has to come in and clean it away. The improvements that have been made are the weeds have been pulled. But that is not enough. We need some help with that Washington Fields. And if that could be done, the other things I think will look better for all the neighbors, and we'll be more pleased with the things that the new people are doing. I think they acquired this in January of last year, and we still have not received any help with Washington Fields. We're the only side that looks like we're in the ghetto. And you know the problems we've had before, and we're still dealing with that. The mud is, you can't even walk on the sidewalks when there's rain. So if that could be done, and if we could have a date of when that would be done before all these improvements and are made, that would be very helpful to the neighbors in the Stuckey Farm, especially the Crossroads area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, I will close the public hearing on item 4B. And commissioners, if you have any questions for the applicant or for Eldon.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Davis. I just do have one question. And yeah, I believe we had heard, the concerns of some of the residents previously with respect to the road and weeds and just, cleaning it up, being a good neighbor, all that. Just look to hear anything the applicant may want to say in that regard.
Good evening, guys. Brandy Walker with Civil Science representing the applicant tonight. The landscaping is indeed on the forefront of change. We just finished Groves Parkway in its full width and right of way to connect Stuckey Farms back around to Washington Fields Road, which requires landscape as well. So these guys, the owners, the developer out there is doing a master overhaul to the landscape plan. So it will take time rather than just piecemeal little neighborhoods. It will be all brought into conformance to where it's all harmonious, the same, and the vibe that they're trying to create out there. So we recognize that there is pieces of landscape that has not been done, but in an effort to, it's going to be one on the street frontage's big project.
For just a second, Brandy, they keep, I guess I don't pay attention when I go out that way. I don't make it that far. The Washington Dam Road, what is the problem? Why is there still?
The original neighborhoods developed by Carl Larson, or the prior owner, just along the Fields Road frontage, just had never been fully landscaped. So there's sections of the Fields Road that's not affiliated with the new ownership, but that's just never been completed fully in the past. So, I mean, we're sensitive to the neighbors, but these are developments that historically have not been finished with landscape.
But is it not your HOA? Isn't it all
There's
all of that?
multiple levels of HOA in Malaya and Stuckey.
So they're just kind of, I mean, you've done the other ones, but are you guys going to do that along Washington Fields Road where the crossroads are as well?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay. And you just finished Groves Parkway and Stuckey Parkway?
Yeah, the big loop is in.
Yep.
If you haven't gone out there, it's pretty nice. There's definitely still gaps of landscape and lots to do, but it's coming together.
Do you know when they're going to move forward on the Washington Dam Road side?
Washington Fields Road?
Washington Fields, sorry. We've
You're
been on
okay.
the dam all night.
It's just, I can't speak on an affirmative timeline. There's just been hodgepodge of landscape that's gone in. There's a commercial aspect that's been developed out there that has certain trees that they want to replace, change into conformity and uniformness. So I'm not sure on that.
Okay.
But what I'm hearing, it seems to be more of an issue of the dirt and the mud versus landscaping, just.
Well, theoretically, if it's
trying to
landscaped, you're not
control
going to
it.
have that
Yeah,
erosion
you're not going
control.
to retain it.
Correct,
Understood.
yeah. And the cross-section that these guys, the new owners are building is a little bit different too in those major corridors, where it's not going to have the big dirt riprap channel, but rather curb gutter, which Groves Parkway has been installed with sidewalks with curb gutter, which will control all that, where the prior existing cross-section of Washington Fields Road through there, it has the riprap ditch. So when the curb gutter wasn't installed in lieu of the ditch, it's definitely more of a maintenance issue. And so we've gotten away from that.
Okay.
Thanks. So how did that get through without getting finished? I know, because it's the problem every time we have something out here. We have the same complaints.
Drew, if you can exit the screen mirroring, I'll mirror my screen on there, just so they can see. So I'm just on Google Street View. I'm gonna go, this is to the north, and you'll see that, these sides of the roads were finished, the medians were finished, for the most part finished. There's been complaints over the years, of weed control and other things here, maintenance challenges. But and these were here before the sale was transacted. But you'll start to see on this side some of the examples. You'll see here the soil is almost eroded to the point that it's covered that whole sidewalk up, right? You'll also see when you drive along here that the sidewalk itself is being undercut by erosion. And so these are pretty expensive things that if they don't take care of them, they're just going to get more expensive and they'll eventually be required to do it. But you'll see here, there's just the lack of finish along the main road is what I think the citizen was talking about. I think the pictures speak for themselves here. The challenge is those finishes were never required as part of a phasing plan. And the prior developer was not a real quick mover out there. He didn't build very quickly. And so you'll see on this side, there's not even a sidewalk, right? And so it's just the road, the minimum asphalt was put in, but the developer improvements outside the roadway weren't. And so there's just a need there. As the transaction to transfer development rights occurred, this was a conversation point, a significant conversation point between them and the city council. They've made commitments that they'll get all of this done. They have always presented it as part of a master kind of a redesign and refurbishment of everything. And so the city's always understood that on day one, they weren't going to show up here and start installing stuff until they had designed and kind of refurbished the look and the feel. But I think they're well aware that the city at some point is going to hold them up if they don't get these things completed and taken care of.
And what point does the city, where's your guys' putting the teeth in that?
The city council, it's not mine. I just interpret the documents and the contracts. The city council tried to tie it to some phasing. But essentially, if they don't take care of it, at some point, the city council will choose a bright line for them, and they'll get to decide whether they agree with that bright line or not, and then what to do about it.
So is that something that needs to go to city council? Or is that what city council needs to decide when this?
The city council's talked about it with them a lot, and so the applicant and the city council are very well aware of this issue and the conversation. They've made commitments to the city council that they're going to take care of this, and so I think someday the city council will probably expect that it's done.
Okay.
So
But
that's still kind of vague.
Yeah, I don't have any precision for you. The prior developers who committed to do it, and, you know, he didn't proceed through his phases, and then he sold his development rights to an entity that was eager to proceed through development. And so yeah, the city and the citizens are in a position where the initial promisor didn't keep his promise, right? And so one of the things that the city liked about a new buyer coming in is maybe there are people that do keep their promises, right? And so there's promises in existence. As we see what they're planning and doing, we think those are promises that are going to be kept. But I just want to state that their promise was never that the first thing they'll do is landscape along Fields Road. They're planning to do it. They've always told us they would, but they've never said that that's the first thing they were going to do.
okay.
So I guess I just want to say one thing. I mean, I guess this is mainly for city council. But this is land use authority, you know, we just have to look at the black and white and, you know, does it apply to their zoning and so forth. And where you've got an issue like this and it's like, well, it has to be done, but it hasn't been tied to anything, you know, the question is that when we approve this, it's approved, right? But at what point, if we're the ones approving it, like we have to approve it if it conforms to the plans. My question is, where's the line? Because at some point, city council is not the one approving this, but if they're saying, well, it's just this vague somewhere out there, it means we have to keep approving it, and we don't know, like, when is that line? Because ultimately, we're the ones that keep approving it, but what if it just keeps getting kicked down the road, and all of a sudden we're done, and it's like, oh, it never got done? I mean, city council needs to pick a spot wherever that is. I mean, that's not our thing.
I agree. Yeah, I agree that this is your thing.
Disapprove based on the plans, but if there's no line, it puts all of the responsibility on us, and we have no.
We don't know when the line
That's
is.
But I don't think the responsibility is yours.
No, but I'm just saying, if there's no line, then there's nothing for us to say, no, we can't, like, we can't disapprove it, because it's not tied to anything. That's what I don't like. No, I know. I just think it needs to be tied to something.
Land Use Authority's job is to review plat applications for residential. And the city council is in contract with these buyers. There's been promises made, there's been hearings held, hours and hours and hours of hearings recorded on YouTube. And so I think that it's very clear between the new buyers and the city council that there's a promise to get this stuff done. And it's been very clear that the city council wanted that promise because the citizens have been coming in for a long time asking for it, right? And so I feel that the city council let these developers know that they expected them to fulfill the promise that the prior developer never did. And they've always said that they would fulfill it. But the contract and the prior planning didn't have a bright line that says these will be built by date certain. And that's part of why the prior developer never did it, is he kind of was able to wiggle between those lines until he never did, right? But the city's had promises and performance. You know, they've come in and they've cleaned it up. They've done some of the things initially that were, you know, just lighter lifting. But they've represented to the city council that they want to do a refresh on the look and feel and style of the landscaping, for example, is one of the things they've shared with the city council. And so they wanted to make sure that that refresh was planned throughout the master community and not just along Fields Road. And so that was one of the reasons they gave the city council as to why they weren't planning to make that promise come due immediately. And so, anyway, Todd, do you have anything to add to that promise?
Yeah, Todd Ambray, part of the development team. I just thought I'd just come up here and just address it directly. couple things. One, we recognize, there's a need, there's maintenance needs, there's landscaping needs, there's a variety of things that need to be cleaned up, sidewalk, et cetera. The only reason they haven't done is because, as Thad mentioned, we've got a multi-million-dollar landscape budget. We've kicked off the designers. They're putting together a plan and a project plan that shows everything. It's not just this little section. And there will be actual parts of it that will get redone. So some of the old landscape, where if you look at the right side of the road versus, or the east versus the west, they don't even match. The median doesn't match all the way along. So there's things that'll be done to retroactively fix a lot of that stuff. But part of it is we don't want to go in there and fix a maintenance thing if the landscaping is going to come before or after that. Meaning, if there's a landscape plan that says, hey, there's a retaining wall that goes in here, or there's a different grade that goes in there, we don't want to just hodgepodge it and do it. We want to do it right. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar project. And so I know that doesn't give you a timeline, but as soon as they're done with it, we've got budget allocated to do this, and it will be number one priority. The other thing from our perspective is it only hurts us, right? Like, the project looks terrible. Like, there is no question about it. The project looks absolutely atrocious right now. And there's many, many things that will be done in very short order. Again, we just got through our PCD about a month ago, so we really didn't want to do anything until that. Now that the PCD is done, now we've kicked off, designers and everything else to start getting into the details so that we can finalize that. So we've got a concept plan now, but we'll finalize that, and then we'll get going right away. And again, I know that doesn't give you a specific timeline.
Well, and again, I understand all that, and I'm fine with timelines. My thing is just, we don't have any leeway back and forth, so at some point, it'd be nice if it was tied to something, because we just have to look at it and say,
yeah, I get
yes,
it.
It's getting better.
Approve, or no, we don't. Because in answer to your question, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but
Todd.
No, the lady behind you. Anyway, we can't disapprove it just because it looks bad. It has to be tied to something from city council. So that's all I'm asking, is that at some point the plan gets tied to something so we can actually.
I don't want to hold your feet to anything, but do you have a guess when you would think this would come? In the year, in 2 years?
Oh, for sure within the next year. I mean, I would say sooner than the next year. I mean, there is a lot of work that's going to be done even in the next, 180 days.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's imminent for sure.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. It's not. It wasn't a. It was a guess. I mean, don't hold him to what I asked. That's why I said I'm not holding him to anything I asked. I was just. That's why I said 2 years. Before 2 years. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to hold his feet to it, because they are, like Mr. Segmiller said, that they are moving forward to make this and do a good job of it. And I just.
Yeah.
I'm just a question.
No, that's fair.
I mean, I don't want.
Fair.
Just because I said that, I don't want him out there with pitchforks getting you.
That's okay. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, and one more public comment.
I'm Greg Malmberg. I'm an owner. I'd just like to know if the park in area 5 would also be considered part of that plan, because that has been promised that it would be done when a certain percentage of homes were built, and it's way past that. And they just let that park go and go and go, and so it's just a dumping ground. So if that could be considered part of this phase, that would be,
Yeah, I don't know if, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how we can do that. I mean, it's kind of the whole thing. It's kind of the whole thing going over it that they're going to fix it all and revamp it. So like Thad was telling us, but it will get done. It will. We can't tie it to this. So.
Drew, are you able to pull up the recently approved site plan? And I'm not exactly sure which park the gentleman was referring to. There it is, section 5. So that big green park is what he's referring to. Is section 5 completed? Is section 5 built out?
Yeah, so the park that is being referred to is, so there's lots that exist on the downhill side, which would be like the southeast, but we haven't platted on the north side of that yet. We're still, it's not platted area yet. No development.
So usually the city requires that the parks be built when the plats within which those reside are presented. And so that might explain one reason why the park hasn't been built, is the prior developer, and no developer has ever brought a plat for that land yet. And so that would explain why that one hasn't been built yet.
They told us when a certain percentage was done of the lots, that it would be done.
Yeah, the person that told you that sold all of his land and is no longer here. And so those promises nobody's here to call on those for, right? And so I'm not disagreeing with what you were told, but the person that made you those promises sold out and left.
So we'll look for a motion, unless you guys have any other questions. Yeah, I closed public comment a while ago.
I'll make the motion. So Commissioner Davis will make a motion on item 4B, that a preliminary plat approval for the, I did get the right one, for breakwater at Alea subdivision located approximately Groves Parkway and Breakwater Lane be approved in concurrence with findings and conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Commissioner Anderson, I second.
I have first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Anderson. Individual voting, Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Bullock. I'm an aye as well. Item 4C is a preliminary plat for the Zion Shores at Alea subdivision located at approximately Grove Parkway and Water's Edge Way. Application is Zion Surf Development and Cody Larkin. Eldon.
This subdivision is in Village 27 and 28, just southwest of the previously one that was just approved. This particular subdivision is proposing 22 townhome units and 43 single-family lots on an area covering 32.54 acres. The zoning is PCD, and the surrounding zoning is also PCD. As shown on the plat, Parcel A is common area and includes the swim, lagoon, and surf machines. The water surface for this area is 8.3 acres. Parcel B is in Village 28 and is being subdivided with this application. All of the townhome units will have a 2-car garage and a 20-foot long driveway. The proposal includes 21 visitor parking spaces. Parking is adequate for the development. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends that the Land Use Authority approve the preliminary plat for the Zion Shores at Alea subdivision based on the findings and conditions as stated in the staff report. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
On the last PDF, is that secondary access just until everything else is built once, and then it'll go away?
It is correct. Yes, once the access to the south comes, that
Once
secondary
other streets
access.
tie in?
Correct, yeah. The intent of that's to meet fire code requirements.
Thanks, Eldon. Unless you guys have any other questions for him. This is a public hearing as well. If anyone would like to speak to this item.
Again, Gary Smith, resident of Alea. As stated before, as long as everything is in compliance fully with currently approved zoning, setbacks, established easements, codes, right-of-ways, accepted traffic engineering and stormwater pollution prevention plans, and requirements for the protection zones, and also with the currently established design guidelines, unless the new developer wants to provide different guidelines and have the members vote on those. So the currently approved standards and governing documents as recognized by the members of these neighborhoods.
Hi, Michelle Harris, also a resident. Probably don't want to go back to this again, but the park that we were just mentioning a while back, I mean, we know and we're aware and understand that Carl Larson is no longer the developer out there, but we've bought into these subdivisions with the understanding that we would have this park. And now we're just hearing things through a pipeline because there's never been anything brought together by the new developers of what their intentions are. And you're saying that back on that plot 5, most of the homes are there. And so I'm not sure if I'm understanding from when Brandy speaks that that was never platted to be done. When will it be platted, or can that be completely changed and wiped off and there's no longer going to be a park there? That's something where we picked our home knowing and understanding that there was going to be a park down there, and now we're hearing, well, it might be rocks. I mean, you're not going to be able to take your grandkids down there. There's not going to be like a little splash pad or some picnic tables. That's what we want to know. We want to know what we bought into when it was Carl Larson's dream and what we can expect with this new developer. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Heidi Blair. I live in the Homesteads, and really, I just have a question for them as to, are these, like I'm looking at the number 4, back to the number Village 4, whatever you want to call it. I noticed on that it was a gated community, and when you look at the lakes around there, does that mean we won't have access to that lake? We won't. We will. Okay, all of the lakes, will homeowners be able to access the lakes? So that's just one of the, how much, there's been so many changes, and my husband had been through this before with developers can change. They can change and they can change their dreams. We've been through this kind of thing before. It's frustrating. But I think a lot of us just want it finished, but we are also concerned about traffic, a little bit about how much, because the density is increased, and so we're a little worried about how much more traffic there's going to be. And are there apartments planned? Like rental anywhere? Apartments, not owned.
You say rental,
I mean, apartments, like.
We're off on a whole different subject.
Okay.
I'm not trying to, but I mean,
But
this will
that's
go
all I
on for
wanted to
days.
say.
But yeah,
That's all I
no, I
wanted to
understand. And I
Thank you.
recommend you talk to them after this meeting.
Right.
About,
Thank you.
about this stuff. Because we're on 27 right now. Is there anyone else that would like to speak with this? Okay, I will close the public hearing portion of this. And if you guys have any other questions or comments on this one.
Yeah, I've just got one question, and maybe Eldon or the applicant can respond. And this is more I just, order of operation, as far as now we get in there and we begin developing the lots, I assume everything with respect to the wave machines and all that, it all happens concurrently? Phase one, we're all in one phase.
Yeah, this is
Thank you.
phase 27. Well, if there's any other questions, I'll look for a motion from someone. You good with it, Corey?
This is Commissioner Anderson. I recommend, actually, I move to approve the preliminary plat for Zion Shores at Elias subdivision located approximately Groves Parkway and Water Edge Way with the 2 findings and 12 conditions outlined by staff.
Commissioner Davis seconds the motion.
I have a first by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock, I am an aye as well. Item 4D is a preliminary plat for the High Spur at Long Valley subdivision located at approximately Long Springs Drive and Riggs Loop. The application is D.R. Horton. We'll turn the time over to Eldon.
Thank you, Land Use. This is the last item that I have here. This particular subdivision is proposing 139 townhome units on an area covering 11.08 acres. The zoning designation is PCD, and the surrounding zone is also PCD. This subdivision will include a small playground and shade canopy area with approximately 10,300 square feet of amenity. This subdivision will have access to the larger Long Valley amenities as well. All of the townhome units will include a 2-car garage with a driveway that is 20 feet long, with 29 visitor parking spaces in phase 1 and 31 parking spaces in phase 2 for a total of 60 designated visitor parking spaces, which is adequate for this subdivision. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends the Land Use Authority approve the pre-plat application for the High Spur at Long Valley subdivision based on the findings and conditions noted in the staff report. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Eldon, Commissioner Davis, just one question. This looks like it's 2 phases, correct? And we have amenities sitting there that look like they're aligned with phase 1. I don't believe we have it, but can there be a condition that at least the amenities are completed before phase 2? To at least for those residents of phase 1?
So one thing that D.R. Horton's doing is they've already built massive amenities that are for the entire development. And so this one in phase 1 adds some additional amenity. But part of their application is that phase 2 units already have access and legal rights to use all the other amenities that already exist.
It's just a ways away.
No, those are built. Oh,
No, I mean physically.
Yeah.
That's wise. That was just my observation in going through it.
D.R. Horton's been very quick to get amenities done right out the gate. Just kudos to D.R. Horton for getting those amenities done quickly.
Thanks, Eldon. So this is a public hearing as well. If anyone would like to speak to this, please do so. Okay, I'll close the public hearing portion of this. And either look for a motion or questions for the applicant or for staff. Okay.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I move to approve the preliminary plat the High Spur at Long Valley subdivision located at Lost Springs Drive and Riggs Loop with the findings and conditions outlined by staff.
Commissioner Davis seconds the motion.
First by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Bullock. I'm an aye as well. Item 5 is adjournment. I'll look for.
Then I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Davis seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.